Good. Okay, well, let's go ahead and begin. I'd like to welcome everybody to our talk today. This webinar, we'll talk about how to effectively treat the human energy crisis using what we call the SHINE protocol. And we're going to start by giving an overview of what fatigue in this country looks like, including the worst forms of fatigue, which are manifesting as fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome. After we've talked about the background a bit and some of the research, then we're going to launch into how to optimize energy, which at the end of the day is what's needed in terms of how to get your lives back. So let's start with looking at some of the numbers. 31% of adults suffer with severe chronic fatigue, not chronic fatigue syndrome. But if you ask them, they've had severe fatigue lasting more than 6 months. So this is becoming really, really common. We have anywhere between 1 to 4 million Americans with chronic fatigue syndrome, and we're looking at probably upwards of 12 million people with mild to severe fibromyalgia. Most physicians are simply not trained in these conditions, and therefore 85% of people with these illnesses have not yet been given the correct diagnosis. They've been told that they're depressed, or they're working too hard, or they're not working enough, or it's been implied that they're crazy. And it's really been a problem. So then, unfortunately, much of what you need to do, you need to be doing on your own, or you need to find a good holistic doctor that can guide you. Because it takes an average of 5 years for most people before they even get a correct diagnosis of CFS or fibromyalgia. Now, why are we seeing a human energy crisis? Because this is actually pretty much a new phenomenon. If you read back 500 years ago, Shakespeare wasn't talking about how, and even before Shakespeare wasn't talking about how everybody's exhausted all the time. But this is basically one of the challenges of this century. We're seeing that half of the vitamins and minerals in our diet are lost in food processing. So we're seeing high calories, but people being malnourished at the same time. For the first time in human history, people being obese and malnourished in the same human being. The average sleep used to be 9 hours a night. We're now down to 6 3/4. So that's an average 30% drop in sleep for most people in this country. With fibromyalgia folks, it's even much worse than that. And then there's a media mantra. When I was a kid, if advertising executives wanted to sell something, they put pretty ladies and handsome guys in there, and the mantra was sex sells. Nowadays, the media mantra is fear sells. When you turn on the so-called news, it doesn't say, well, here's what's going on the planet that's useful and balanced. No, they do say that, but it's not what they show. They're trying to show whatever can scare you the most so that you sit there and watch 24/7. So basically, whether it's in the news media, whether it's in medicine, the sales mantra is fear sells. Also, the speed of life is increasing. It used to be if you wanted to send a letter, you would send it by Pony Express. If the guy survived, you might get an answer back, a couple months later. Nowadays, you hit send. And then in your inbox a minute later sometimes. So things are increasing in speed. In addition, just as the human race is growing and evolving, so are infections and bugs. And we have new infections that are coming out, which are having a field day because the human immune system is being weakened because of poor diet, poor sleep, and a host of other issues. Also, we have about 85,000 chemicals that have been added to our environment that were not there 100 years ago. And our immune system then has to deal with all of that. So we have many reasons for the perfect storm in a human energy crisis. On the other hand, in my opinion, this is the best time ever in human history to be living. And for those of you who think otherwise, first give up your TV, your iPhones, your Androids, your computers, all these other things. And then let's talk. I think we take for granted so much of what we have. So I think this is the best time in human history to be living, and I think it's getting better and better and better. And it has its challenges. one of those being having the energy crisis that triggers chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia. But it does also supply the tools needed to address these challenges. I'm going to tell you right now, knowledge is power. I know that you not only can recover and survive, but using the information we're going to share with you today, you can thrive. And that's my goal for you, is to get a life you love. And we're going to teach you how to do that today. So let's start by a little bit of background. Chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, ME, these are three names that all reflect the human energy crisis. They can hit in different severities. There are differences between the three, but they all basically share that underlying human energy crisis as the foundation. It is actually what I call the worst case scenario for the human energy crisis. You basically, for those of you with this illness, you're seeing the tip of the iceberg. You guys are the canaries in the coal mine of what's happening societally on the whole. You're basically the first, the ones that are most sensitive to it and are getting whacked first. So what you're doing in learning how to recover is actually going to help everybody else as they all start to slide into the same problems. So the good news, by using a mix of natural and prescription therapies, I think almost all illnesses, more and more, can be effectively treated. And especially, we've seen, our research has shown that this is the case with CFS, fibromyalgia, and chronic pain. So let's start by, how do you tell if you've got these conditions? Well, tired, achy, brain fog, can't sleep, and you're a sugar addict. So, and let's simplify it even further, because brain fog is a big part of this disease. If you have widespread pain or exhaustion and horrible insomnia, and it's lasted for more than several months, you've got this condition or a related condition until proven otherwise. That's really the combination of inability to sleep despite being exhausted. So this is a nice, simple thing, and you'll find that like the American College of Rheumatology, other places, they seem to be coming around to the same thing that we've been saying for the last 20, 25 years. Widespread pain, exhaustion, brain fog, and can't sleep, you've got this disease. And that's what the new ACR diagnostic criteria for fibromyalgia are basically saying. So why are these conditions so poorly treated? One, physicians are simply not trained in these illnesses. There's no simple test. With diabetes, there's a simple test. I check a blood sugar. I know right away if you're diabetic. High blood pressure, the same thing. There is no simple test for fibromyalgia. And as we've seen historically, in medicine, until there's a test, the illness does not exist. We'll see lupus used to be called hysterical, used to be considered a neurosis of women. Multiple sclerosis used to be called hysterical paralysis. Even rheumatoid arthritis was considered a psychological illness until for each of these tests, for each of these illnesses, tests were developed. And suddenly, millions of people, usually women, went from being neurotic to having an, oh my God, they've got this real devastating disease. Now, you see this happen in medicine over and over, and it routinely happens in illnesses that affect women. And if you look, even with half of physicians being female, there's still the old built-in bias. If you look at the word hysteria, it comes from the medical word hystero, which means uterus. It gives where medicine is coming from, and it's really sad. So illnesses that affect predominantly women, often doctors are given the impression, especially if it's complex, that they're just crazy women. Also, this illness is far too complex to treat in the average 5 to 8 minute doctor's visit. And because of all of this, and for other reasons as well, many doctors still don't believe it's a real condition. Now, I'm going to tell you straight out very simply. If a doctor says, I don't know what's wrong with you, I'm sorry, that's okay. That's a good doctor, and you can say, thanks, sorry you couldn't help me, but I appreciate you trying. If a doctor says, I don't know what's wrong with you, and implies that you're crazy, or if they tell you fibromyalgia is not a real disease, I want you to do this. I want you to stand up, grab them, give them the biggest hug you've ever given everybody. Look them in the eye and say, thank you for letting me know up front that you are an utter fool, so I don't waste my time on you. Wave, say ta-ta, and walk out the door, and I would not pay their bill. There is no excuse for the abusive behavior of a doctor saying, I don't know what's wrong with you, and therefore implying that you're crazy. That is abusive, and it is not acceptable. So enough about doctors. There's many good ones out there, but as many of you have experienced, there's also some that have issues and need to learn. Nice thing is it's not your job to train them. Find somebody who knows what they're doing. So let's take a look at the causes of CFS and fibromyalgia. Basically, these represent an energy crisis where you've blown a fuse. Just like in your home, you plug in too many space heaters on a cold winter night, off goes the circuit breaker. If you have too many physical, emotional, or other stresses, and your body doesn't distinguish one from the other, the stress is a stress, whether it's pneumonia or, our mother-in-law from hell, it's the same thing. These are stresses. If you get too many of them build up on you, you'll blow a fuse. Basically, the fuse that represents an energy crisis. So it can be triggered by anything that causes you to spend more energy than you're able to make. So anything that increases need for energy or blocks your ability to make energy. So I want to take a look. Let's take a look at one of the studies we have done and published a while back. The title of the study, Effective Treatment for CFS and Fibromyalgia, placebo-controlled study. It was done by our research center team. The design was a gold standard randomized double-blind placebo-controlled study with an intent to treat analysis. It had an integrated treatment plan where people were divided with nobody knowing, including myself, who was in which group, into either getting all active treatments or all placebo treatments. And they were given the entire SHINE protocol. And the study was testing the integrated treatment protocol. What we found was that 91% of people who were in the active group experienced moderate to marked improvement after 3 months. So looking at the numbers, we had 32 in each group, 32 in the active treatment group and 32 placebo. And we had 4 outcome measures. One is we invited people at the end of the study to rate themselves as either much better, better, same, worse, or much worse. And what you'll find is that in the active group, 16 people, or half, 50%, rated themselves as much better with treatment, and another 13 as better but not cured. So you had 29% of the 32 people feeling better. In the placebo group, you had 3 who rated themselves much better, 9 somewhat better, but most of them rated themselves the same, worse, or much worse by the end of the time. Now, you have not lived until you've had to tell somebody who found themselves much better that they were getting a placebo. This doesn't say that they didn't have the real illness, because you'll see the same thing in cancer, heart disease, angina, diabetes. What it says is that your mind has a power to heal you. In fact, if you look at most studies, the most consistently effective treatment is placebo. What it simply says is when people know they're able to heal, it gets rid of a major block towards healing. And our ability to heal is a critical part of the healing process, in addition to the medications and everything else. Instead of telling people and encouraging people to use their own innate healing ability, though, in medicine, we prefer to disempower people by saying, oh, it was just a placebo effect, so you must have been crazy. Don't buy into that. Your ability to heal from any illness is an important piece of getting well. And as you can see with most people, it takes much more than that, though. It's good to have help. Now, this was our second outcome measure. We had people rating themselves on a 0 to 100 scale for pain, energy, cognitive function, overall well-being, and sleep. And so basically, if people rated themselves as 500, they're Superman and Superwoman. And if they rated themselves as 0, they're dead. I'll currently have people rate themselves on a 0 to 10 scale, and the average person puts themselves at a 3.5, and with treatment it goes to about a 7 or 7.5 on average. This study was done a while back. We've had many new treatments since then, and what we saw at 3 months was an average 75% increase in overall well-being at the end of the 3 months. For those who like the statistics, what you'll find is that it was a p-value of less than 0.0001 for all 4 outcome measures versus placebo. This is a FIC, or disability index, and what you'll see is it dropped significantly, a pretty major drop. And again, p-value less than 0.0001. It's a very, very strong effect. And we also did a tender point index, which dropped by 50%. Now, most of you have had the experience that you take something and you feel better for a little while, but then you've gotten one link in the chain better, but now the other ones are getting stressed more, and then you crash again. So in the study, we did a 2-year follow-up. And at 2 years, what the study showed that the average person continued to improve from an average 75% increase in quality of life at 99 days up to an average increase in quality of life of 90% at the 2-year follow-up. And most people have been able by that point to wean off of most of the treatments. So we're talking about a lot of things today to optimize energy, and we're going to go ahead and go through these things, but know that these are just crutches. These are not things that you need to do to take forever. These are things you use to get well, and then you can get rid of them. Now, the study conclusion is that effective treatment is now available for CFS and fibromyalgia. This is the scientific reality of the day, and it's a good thing to know. So let's take a look again at symptoms, because we talked about tired, achy, brain fog, can't sleep, and sugar craving, but it goes a bit beyond. The insomnia is a hallmark of this disease. If you find that you are able to get a good night's sleep without taking something, then you probably don't have fibromyalgia. You probably have another condition that's triggering the similar symptoms that needs to be looked at. You'll see things like polymyalgia rheumatica, for example, that will go ahead and mimic fibromyalgia. The muscle and joint pains, that's because the low energy causes the muscles to get locked in a shortened position. Muscles are like a spring. They take more energy to relax. And that's why if you have a hard day of working or working out and you come home, you don't go, honey, God, my muscles are so loose and limp. You go, they're so tight, because without energy, the muscles get locked in a shortened position. And after being locked in a shortened position for a couple hours or years, they hurt. And that's where the muscle pains come from. And then that chronic pain triggers what's called central sensitization and neuropathic pain. The immune system is on overwhelm and functioning poorly, so you see numerous allergies and sensitivities. Many of you are sensitive to most everything. And in those cases, there's an acupressure technique called NAET, and you can go to the website www.naet.com and find over 10,000 practitioners worldwide. To give an idea of the power of the study, our foundation funded a study using NAET for autism. What we found, what the study found, was that 23 of the 30 children in the treatment group were back in regular school at the end of 1 year, as opposed to 0 out of 30 in the untreated control group. The NAET, when done well, and it's an art, just like with medicine, some practitioners are better than others. When done well, it can really knock out sensitivities very powerfully. Most of you find you have brain fog, and that manifests as difficulty with word finding or word substitution. So you substitute the word fork for knife, or your neighbor's name for your husband's name. That's not a Freudian slip in this illness. That's just part of the brain fog. Also short-term memory, and about a third of you will have where this, what we call episodic disorientation. You take an exit off a highway, a turn in a supermarket, and for about 30 seconds you don't know where you are. You're still able to drive safely, but it's like, where am I? And it gets kind of scary, but it's not dangerous. It's just part of the brain fog. It all tends to clear up with treatment. Chronic sinusitis and spastic colon, very, very common. Both of these come in most people from the candida overgrowth. Frequent infections. If you have chronic sore throats, that tends to come from adrenal fatigue. The sinusitis, again, comes from the candida. Weight gain. Average 32.5-pound weight gain in this disease. That's 2 studies we did on our treatment center. 32.5 pounds. And that occurs because of the change in metabolism that occurs in this illness, where you're not making energy, so you're not burning the calories. 73% have loss of libido. And sugar addicts, I think if this is an AA meeting, most of you would be raising your hands going, hi, I'm Jacob and I'm a sugar addict. You know? So sugar addiction, a common part of the problem. So what causes CFS and fibromyalgia? This is a body-wide energy crisis that causes you to trip a circuit breaker called the hypothalamus. And the most common causes include any of dozens of infections. There are literally probably close to 100 infections that can trigger CFS, that can make you blow a fuse and trigger the CFS and fibro. Hormonal deficiencies, food sensitivities, toxins. They can be toxic chemical exposures, toxic Boston spouse exposures, many different kinds of toxins. Nutritional deficiencies, poor digestion, chronic stress, or disrupted sleep. Anything that disturbs sleep can eventually catch up with you and may trigger the CFS and fibro. So most people have a mix of problems that are going on. And then you have one thing that, when your body is overloaded, pushes you over the edge. So this is a picture of the hypothalamus. A nice thing about learning to avoid stress is you don't have to look at that onto the next picture. So understanding why you blew a fuse can be helpful. And one question will really help sort that out. And it's, did the illness begin gradually or suddenly? Or put differently, I'll just ask, when did it start? And if people say, oh, it was 5 to 8 years ago, but I've been feeling lousy for 15 years, that's kind of gradual onset. With gradual onset, it's most often going to be hormonal or nutritional deficiencies, chronic stress, autoimmune illness like lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, MS, or candida. For those who I ask when it began, and they say April 17, 1997, sudden onset. Most often infections, viral infections being most common. After pregnancy, people tend to do fine during pregnancy, but after the baby's born, it triggers. And then after injury, we'll commonly see it. So these are just a number of the things that will go ahead and trigger the problem. Now, sugar addiction really drives the energy crisis. You'll find that that's a very, very common and big part of the problem. The sugar addiction is driven by fatigue, adrenal exhaustion, candida overgrowth, and depression or anxiety caused by a shift in hormones. And there's a book that I have, Beat Sugar Addiction Now, and that can help you to learn how to get off of sugar without going through withdrawal. Now, a lot of people ask me, what's a nice doctor like me doing in a field like this? And I got into CFS and fibromyalgia the old-fashioned way. I had it in 1975 in the middle of med school, and it was a very crazy period. My dad had died when I was in college. I was paying my own way through school. Finished college basically about 2.5 years because it cost the same. I could do twice as many credits a year for the same money, so like rolled right through. And then I was one of the youngest in my med school class, and med school was almost the easiest part of my life at that point. My family was going through a meltdown, and like most people, the CFS and fibro, I became the peacemaker, got caught in the middle, was emotionally not able to deal with it. And at that point, I got what I called the drop-dead flu, this nasty viral infection. It essentially left me bedridden for a good while, and I couldn't function. I had to drop out of medical school. Since I was paying my own way, it meant no work study, no scholarship, no loan, and I was too weak to work, which meant I was homeless, sleeping in parks. I still remember in Tulsa, it was as if the universe put a holistic homeless medical school on my park bench. And sometimes people would come by. If they fed me, I ate, and I had less than $1 to my name. And herbalists came by, homeopaths came by, MDs came by, all these different people came by. and taught me bits and pieces of the puzzle. And I was able to combine this information and get myself well. It was really a miracle. It was awesome just watching it happen. And that helped me to go ahead and recover. And then I've spent the last 35 years, or more than that now, teaching everybody how to recover and get their life back. I guess it's up to 40 years now. We've hit that. Now, again, not everybody has money to do this. And we have articles about how to get well if you don't have much money. For example, we'll talk about a free energy analysis program that can guide you to optimize energy. A lot of the treatments, it's funny, your body doesn't care how expensive something is. If something is expensive, does not make it more effective. Actually, usually it's less effective. The most effective things are the natural, simple, cheap things. So even for those of you who are on disability and have no money, you can get yourself well. And we're going to teach you in all kinds of ways what to do so that you can learn how to recover. This is for everybody to get well now. So you blew a fuse called the hypothalamus, and it was caused by an energy crisis. So to turn that circuit breaker back on and make the fatigue and pain go away, what you need to do is rebalance your energy equation. And I want you to start a simple idea. Instead of focusing on illness, it's time to focus on optimizing health. So even though our body has this different warning lights, kind of like the oil light up and the engine light and the starter light and all these other lights on our dashboard. And when we have certain symptoms, it's like that warning light saying that there's an area of health that needs to be optimized. So instead of focusing on the oil light and yelling at the light and saying, out damn light and all of that, you optimize your car function. How you put oil in the car. Then it's nice the oil light goes away, but that's not the goal. The goal is to optimize your car's health. And in this case, I want for us to start focusing on optimizing health. And that's what we're going to do for the rest of the talk today. We're going to talk about how to optimize energy. When you optimize energy, coincidentally, these warning lights go out too. But it's not about the warning lights. It's about optimizing energy. So got fatigue, got pain. Here are 5 steps that are needed to optimize energy. I want you to write these down. If you have a piece of paper, write it on that. If you don't have any paper, write it on your forearm or the forehead of the person sitting next to you. You want to remember these 5 steps. And it boils down to the SHINE protocol, S-H-I-N-E. To optimize energy, you want to optimize sleep, hormonal support, infections need to be cleared, nutritional support, and exercise as able. Remember that, as able. So sleep, hormones, infections, nutrition, exercise. This is your guideline to optimizing energy production so you can go back to feeling great. Now, to make it simple, because we're going to cover a lot of territory today, we do have a simple energy analysis program that teaches people how to go ahead and optimize their energy. And if you go to www.endfatigue.com, there will be some simple quizzes that you can do that will go ahead and figure out what you need to do to optimize energy production. The energy analysis program can even take a look at your blood tests if you have them available. It can look at the pertinent labs, and we'll go ahead and analyze those as well. The labs are not necessary. Labs and symptoms all point to the same thing. So take the quizzes. If you have the pertinent labs that it asks for, put those in as well. If not, don't worry about it. And it will determine and tell you, here's what you need to do to optimize your energy. These are the areas to focus on. And then tailor a regimen and a recommendation list for you that will optimize your vitality. And you'll be pleasantly surprised that within about 3 months, you're going to be feeling a whole lot better. So again, the energy analysis program, and it's at the website www.endfatigue.com. E-N-D-F-A-T-I-G-U-E. So we've talked about SHINE, sleep, hormones, infection, nutrition, exercise. And let's go ahead and look at N for nutrition, because nutrition is the foundation of health. Now, people ask, which vitamin or mineral do I need? And the answer is, of course, by definition, all of them. These are things, by definition, that your body can't make on its own, and which are critical for health. So people need vitamin A for immune support, vitamin C, also for immune and adrenal support, vitamin D for immune health and balance. B vitamins are the backbone of energy production. And I personally find that people need much higher levels than the RDA, which I call the ridiculous dietary allowances. I think the RDAs are enough to prevent deficiency diseases like scurvy or beriberi, but they're nowhere near the levels, and this is shown in the research, needed to optimize health. So I like the B vitamins in relatively high doses. Magnesium, especially critical for muscles to be able to relax and for energy production. Zinc and selenium for immune function. And I can go on with each of the nutrients. Amino acids for neurotransmitters and glutathione. Glutathione, we hear about antioxidants a lot, but we kind of forget, you know, these plants, each different plant and animal makes different antioxidants. Maybe we should ask, well, which one does the human body make? Because those were the ones that are most important for us. So in terms of jumping over all the nutrients before, I did that because it's not going to be necessary to know them all. I'm going to tell you a simple way to have that all covered without having to sort through a bunch of slides. But if you look at the human body, the two key antioxidants that it makes are superoxide dismutase, which you have plenty of as long as you have enough zinc and copper, those two. And then glutathione, which is the most critical antioxidant and the most critical deficiency. Glutathione is critical for immune function, detoxification, energy production, and a host of other functions. Most people with CFS and fibromyalgia have depleted glutathione. I would say most Americans, most adults on the planet are suffering with not enough glutathione. And to make glutathione, I have the key things are glutamine, glycine, and cysteine. This is all going to be in a single multivitamin, so you don't have to scribble rapidly. And vitamin C. And those things will stimulate your body's own production of glutathione. And then we now have, where it used to be that glutathione by mouth got digested and it wasn't absorbed and it got basically oxidized. So it wasn't as helpful as we'd like it to be. There's now a new form that goes under the tongue. We'll talk about that in a moment. That really can be very helpful at raising glutathione levels. So in terms of the vitamins and minerals, I don't like people having to take a handful of pills each day. You know, it used to be when I first started in practice, I would do, you know, here's you need this much vitamin A and this of the B's and vitamin C and all of the rest of that. And it got crazy. People were taking handfuls of pills. So I went ahead and designed a product called the Energy Revitalization System. And basically my royalties go to charity. When I don't take money from any of the drug or natural product companies. And the first thing I designed was the Energy Revitalization System. It is a mix of 50 key nutrients, everything from A to Z in terms of the micronutrients that you should be getting from the diet, with the exception of iron and essential fatty acids and enzymes. Otherwise, it's pretty much in there. Now, it doesn't have every nutrient. That's what you should be getting from the diet at optimal levels. So I pretty much recommend that everybody in the world who's over 11 years old take 1/2 to 1 scoop of powder of the Energy Revitalization System. I take it each morning. If you saw my travel schedule and lecture schedule, it would make your head spin. And I, even having had CFS in the past, my energy is skyrocketing and flying high, in part because I take care of myself. So the Energy Revitalization System, I recommend that for everybody. 1 scoop in the morning, it's not expensive, and even 1/2 a scoop a day is plenty enough for most people and cuts the cost in half. So that one drink replaces over 30 tablets. Now, I've seen advertising for that, so I just roll my eyes. So I'll throw out this challenge. If you can get what's into one drink in less than 30 pills, I'll give you $100. Because you're not going to be able to. Most people take 50 or 60 pills to get what's in that one drink. It'll have the vitamins, minerals, amino acids, energy cofactors, inositol, all in one simple drink. So keep your life easy. Now, if people don't tolerate powders, there's a mix. I like a multivitamin called Natrol, my favorite multiple take one, and I'll add Jigsaw Magnesium, which is a magnesium that does not cause you runs, 2 twice a day. That's just a small piece of what's in the powder, but at least it gets people started. Now, this is one where I would write these down. And these are other nutrients. These are not nutritional deficiencies from the diet. These are deficiencies that occur because of lack of energy production. So number one, you want to increase your water intake, and you want to increase your salt intake. Now, I know that most of you are saying, but I already drink like a fish and pee like a racehorse. And yes, you're drinking 4 times what your spouse is drinking, but you're peeing 5 times as much. And if you try to avoid having to go pee all the time, by not drinking, you will dehydrate, and that you will crash and burn. So you need more water, and unless you have high blood pressure or heart failure, you need more salt. And I like a good quality sea salt, like the Celtic sea salts, but really any salt is better than none. You want to cut back sugar intake. And I'm going to add the 3 magic words, except for chocolate. So chocolate in moderation is a good healthy food, and there's sugar-free chocolate. Cecil Stover has a line that's great. You can go to AbdullahCandies.com. They have a page of sugar-free chocolates that are to die for, so you don't have to deprive yourself. Most of you will feel best with a high-protein, low-carbohydrate diet, and you know, everybody's different though. So eat what leaves you feeling the best overall. I'm not saying what you crave. I'm saying that food that over the long term leaves you feeling the best. But most people will find high protein, low carb, frequent meals will do the best. And for 3 to 9 months, I want you to consider adding these other nutrients if you want to optimize energy production. Number 1 is acetyl L-carnitine. This is going to be low in people with an energy crisis, 1,000 to 1,500 milligrams a day. Not only helps increase energy, but makes it possible to lose weight. When you're carnitine deficient, you can't lose weight. D-Ribose, another really helpful nutrient we'll talk about in a moment. Coenzyme Q10, 200 milligrams a day. Take the coenzyme Q10 with a little bit of oil, because otherwise it will not be absorbed. So some vegetable oil, you can take it with whole milk, anything that has a bit of oil in it. Now, for fish oil, the fish oil is critical, and you don't need the oil, you just need the essential fatty acids. So if you're eating 4 servings a week of salmon, tuna, herring, mackerel, or sardines, you're pretty much covered. But for those who need a supplement, the fish oil omega-3 supplement I recommend is called Vectomega. You can go ahead and just take 1 Vectomega a day instead of 8 fish oil capsules, and it supplies the same level of absorption of essential fatty acids of omega-3s. So for part of my morning regimen, what I do each morning myself is a scoop of the vitamin powder, a scoop of ribose, coenzyme Q10, 200 milligrams, and 1 Vectomega. Another new thing that we talked about is the clinical glutathione. This is a new product that if you put 2 of them under your tongue each morning, it will increase your glutathione reduced levels, the active levels, by over 200% in terms of the increase. It's just really dramatic. And it can make a big, big difference. I recommend people do that for 3 to 4 months as well. So 2 under the tongue each morning or 1 twice a day. You may want to continue it after that, or some people will find, like say, that a lot of these things can wean over time. So this is your nutritional recipe. Increase the water and salt intake, cut back sugar, high protein. Do the vitamin powder, 1 vectomega, and 1 scoop of ribose, and 200 of CoQ10. I would recommend that long term. And then for short term, add the acetylcarnitine, 1,000 to 1,500 milligrams a day, and the clinical glutathione, 2 a day, for the 3 to 4 months. Now, let's take a moment and look at the ribose. Ribose is actually a sugar. It's a healthy sugar. It actually lowers blood sugar instead of raising it, and yeast cannot eat it. I've tried. They can't ferment it, so it does not feed the candida. Because I actually do my own little test tube studies with these things, so now my wife is very patient with me. So ribose is a naturally occurring compound found in virtually all living cells, and it is the backbone of ATP and other energy molecules, and also of DNA, deoxyribose nucleic acid, and RNA. And when people are having an energy crisis, the ribose gets deficient. The body can't hold on to it, and that's part of the energy crisis. And it's critical to energy production. So in looking at it, we were wondering, well, gee, we were wondering if that was a piece of the puzzle. So we did 2 studies. The second study was 257 people with severe fatigue at 53 health clinics. And what the study showed was at the end of 3 weeks, the average, this is average, not only in the improvers and not, the best case, the average person had a 61% increase in energy at 3 weeks. There's nothing I've seen that does that. Besides this, sleep improved, mental clarity improved, pain went down, overall well-being went up. And at the bottom of the slide, there's a link. And this webinar will be online later, so you'll be able to get the slide file for those who want to see the study. It was a published study in the Open Pain Journal. So the effect of the ribose was nothing short of remarkable. And the dosing, I recommend a 5-gram scoop 3 times a day for 3 weeks, and then you can drop it down to twice a day, morning and noontime is good. It comes as a powder that looks and tastes like sugar, so it's easy to take. It can be used in any food or drink. Actually, I just add it to the vitamin powder. And people will usually see the effect by 3 weeks and often before that. The main side effect is about 5% of people get over-energized. And if that happens, that suggests that you need adrenal support. And the one caution I'll give is don't use pills of ribose because you're looking at 30 capsules a day. That's stupid. Just use the powdered form because it's just like put 1 scoop in, you add water, and you just take a drink. It's just easy. No need to take handfuls of pills all day. The brands I recommend, Corvalen is what we use in the study, but we got tired of the price being so high for people. So we're actually going to be putting it in a brand we call Shine. And that's going to be out in about a month. And that's going to be the lowest priced ribose that will be available anywhere using the proper form. It's just going to be really, really good. So we're going to make it a lot more affordable for people. We talked about for those who want fish oil support, Vectomega is the only one I use. 1 a day is all you need. And no fish oil works. It's cheaper, it's easy. You don't need the oil, you just need the omega-3s. Simple way to go. The CoQ10, just be sure you take it with some oil. This is a clinical glutathione that we're talking about. So this is a very, very wonderful new product that I'm having pretty much all my folks start on and give it to 3 months. So we talked about nutrition as a key part of the Shine. And let's go ahead and take a moment now to look at sleep, which is the S in Shine. Because what you're going to find is that good quality sleep is critical. And with the fibromyalgia, we talked about people, for example, having hypothalamic dysfunction. And the sleep center that controls sleep, so they can't sleep. And the public in general, when you have an energy crisis, 70 million people have disordered sleep in the United States. So it's a common problem, not being able to get good quality sleep. So here's how everybody can optimize sleep quality. Number one, it's good to know what normal is. And it used to be that the average night's sleep in the United States, average, until 130 years ago, when light bulbs were invented, was 9 hours a night. We're now down to 6 3/4. And we see also loss of deep sleep that comes from stress triggering hypothalamic dysfunction. You'll see people will wake up in the middle of the night because they have a drop in blood sugar. So many of you who find that it's like an alarm clock goes off at 2 to 4 in the morning, if you just eat a protein snack, I'm going to underline the word protein. You eat a carb snack, it's going to be worse. But eat a hard-boiled egg, eat a couple slices of meat or fish. Just 1 ounce is all it takes. And it can keep your blood sugar from dropping in the middle of the night. And you'll know the first night or two, but it will often help with sleep quality. Infections, candida, other infections may leave you waking up in a sweat, as can acid reflux. And then drops in hormone, estrogen, testosterone, and other hormones, when they drop, can wake you up in the middle of the night. So optimizing all of these things can play a big role in getting you a good night's sleep. In terms of herbal support, my favorite is one called the Revitalizing Sleep Formula. It's a mix of 6 herbs: valerian, passion flower, lemon balm, hops, theanine, and wild lettuce. For most people with day-to-day insomnia, this will leave them sleeping like puppies. It's a nice, easy, gentle yet powerful sleep mix. I will note that about 5 to 10% of people will actually get energized from valerian, and they can't use it. They can actually use it during the day for anxiety. But most people with day-to-day sleep problems, this is all it's going to take to leave them sleeping like puppies. Now, some people have more severe sleep issues, and they need more. For example, people with fibromyalgia, there's no one sleep thing that's going to help them sleep enough. They'll need 3, 4, 5, 8 different things together to get adequate sleep. But for day-to-day insomnia, the herbal mix, and for anybody who has sleep issues, I like the herbal mix. Is easy to start with. Then adding some magnesium or even an Epsom salts bath. For those of you who live where it's cold, in the wintertime, 2 cups of Epsom salts, magnesium salts, in a tub of hot water, and soak. Do that about an hour before bedtime. Give yourself an hour to cool down before you go to bed. 1/2 milligram of melatonin, and more is not better, can be very helpful. For those who are not taking medications that raise serotonin, such as antidepressants, Cymbalta, Savella, the 5-HTP, 200 milligrams at bedtime, not only improves sleep, but also decreases pain and can help depression and help weight loss. So 200 to 300 milligrams at bedtime, but this one takes 6 weeks to see the full effect. The smell of lavender, I actually put a drop of lavender oil on my upper lip, makes it easier with a mustache, before bedtime each night. Helps me sleep, just the smell. You can get lavender in a pill. Calmade has lavender oil. For those of you who find that you're tired all day, and then all of a sudden you're about to go to bed, it's 10 o'clock at night, and your mind is wide awake and it thinks it's morning. In those cases, the day-night cycle for the adrenal gland is often shifted around so that it's too high at night and too low during the day. And in those cases, an herbal mix that can be found in a product called Sleep Tonight is very good. 1 or 2 at bedtime or an hour before bedtime will often help you sleep. And you'll know within the first week if it's helping. Keep your bedroom cool. As you mentioned, try a 1-ounce protein snack at bedtime, a hard-boiled egg. Nice, easy, simple way to do that. And don't forget a good old-fashioned hot bath. I want to mention, because there was a question about sleep in terms of the dental aids, we're going to talk about sleep actually next month's webinar, which will be the first Monday of the month. We'll talk about sleep in much more depth. We'll talk about sleep apnea, restless leg syndrome. For sleep apnea, the CPAP machines, 3/4 of people don't tolerate them. The dental appliances, if you have a dentist who knows how to do those, I suspect will be much more helpful and a much better way to go. But we'll talk about other tricks for treating sleep apnea and restless leg syndrome next month. So let's take a look at H and Shine, which would be hormones. And hormones are produced by glands. They're controlled by a master control center called the hypothalamic pituitary axis. Thyroid is a gas pedal, adrenal is a stress handler, and the ovaries and testes are reproductive but have other very important functions as well. So hormone production is critical for optimizing energy production. Even mild underproduction of hormones can be associated with many health problems and leave people sick, tired, craving sugar, brain fog, and in pain. It's important to know that the blood tests miss not only some people who need hormonal support, they miss most people who would benefit from getting hormonal support. And you want to treat with natural hormones to optimize hormonal function and energy production. The thyroid, for example, is the body's gas pedal. The blood tests give some information, but even if the blood tests are normal, if the person is tired, weight gain, achy, cold intolerant, thinning of the outer third of their eyebrows, poor memory, depression, these are all symptoms that suggest that your body would benefit from optimizing thyroid levels with bioidentical thyroid hormone. And I like the ones like Nature Thyroid or Armor Thyroid by prescription. Also, nutritional support with iodine. I like one called Tri-Iodine. 6.25 milligram, I think is plenty. Can be very, very helpful in optimizing thyroid function. Weight gain. Now, in terms of Synthroid, everybody's different. Some people do better with Synthroid, some do better with Armor or desiccated thyroid, some do better with Pure T3. We're going to have a webinar in the future just on thyroid where we're going to discuss these different things. I like to begin with the Armor Thyroid personally with folks. Weight gain. As you mentioned, the average weight gain in chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia is 32.5 pounds. We have weight gain being a problem in this country in general. It's often a matter of optimizing the metabolism. And you do that by optimizing thyroid and adrenal function. I give the acetylcarnitine 1,000 milligrams a day for just 3 months. Treating candida overgrowth, because candida cause sugar cravings, and they seem to metabolically make it harder to lose weight. Getting 8 hours sleep a night. Studies show that people who don't get enough sleep gain an average 6.5 pounds and have a 30% higher risk of obesity, and treating insulin resistance, which packs down the weight. So all of these are addressed by the SHINE protocol, and people often find that the weight that they couldn't lose finally starts to drop off once they treat with SHINE. Now, let's take a look at adrenal exhaustion. Too much time spent in high stress can exhaust the adrenal gland. And adrenal fatigue is not recognized yet by traditional medicine, but it's very, very common. I'm suspecting that because of the stress of modern life, as many as a quarter of the population have it. The adrenal glands sit on top of the kidneys. They're like little caps. And the symptoms, because again, the testing will not tell if you need adrenal support. They will give a clue, but the main way to tell if somebody needs adrenal support, low blood pressure, and they get irritable and hungry. It's not that I'm hungry and let's eat in a half hour. You know, if you're going down the highway with your honey and you say, I'm hungry, and he says there's a nice restaurant half hour up the road, and you look him in the eye and you say, you'll be dead by then, you have adrenal fatigue. That's low blood sugar. So that feed me now or I'll kill you kind of hunger. Crashing with stress, frequent sore throats, often a symptom of adrenal fatigue, and sugar addiction. If you get these sugar cravings, the irritable sugar cravings, all of these suggest the need for adrenal support. I like to support the adrenal and optimize adrenal function with a product called Adrenal Stress End. 1 or 2 each morning is all that most people take, and all they need. It's an adrenal glandular with vitamin B5 and vitamin C. Licorice, not candy licorice, but the herb licorice actually raises adrenal. And all of that's in the Adrenal Stress End. Nice, easy thing to take. Some people find that adrenal glandulars will cause upset stomach, in which case if that happens, then stop it. Also, many people find the DHEA is low, and in more severe cases of people needing more adrenal support, I'm going to consider DHEA and natural cortisol, but in very, very, very low dosing. This is the Adrenal Stress End product. If you have feed me now or I'll kill you moments, crash distress, if you're in marriage counseling, divorce, often that comes from the drops in blood sugar causing mood shifts. give the Adrenal Stress End a try. It can make a really nice difference for people. So in upcoming webinars, we'll talk about bioidentical estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, and other treatments as well. So we'll be doing these webinars each month, and we'll take topics in more depth at that point. And then infections. The infections are a common issue in causing day-to-day fatigue as well. The most important common misinfection would be yeast or candida overgrowth. There's no good diagnostic test for it. I wouldn't give a nickel for any test out there. There's many tests available, but I don't think any of them are reliable. How do I tell it's present? If people have nasal congestion, chronic sinusitis, or irritable bowel syndrome. Those most often are caused by candida and will go away when the candida is properly treated. Treatment includes probiotics, avoiding sugar. Yeast grow by fermenting sugar. You eat sugar, you feed the little buggers. I'll use antifungals like berberine, but most important is a medication, diflucan, 200 milligrams a day for 6 weeks. I find just taking them one a day for 2 days is not going to do anything. It'll help the vaginal candida, but it's not going to help the overall candida overgrowth. And it's important to look for other infections, parasites, viral infections, antibiotic-sensitive infections, a host of others. So here's a new probiotic that's really good. I will not use probiotics unless they have a stomach coating on them. Otherwise, the stomach acid kills 99.9% of them, and you don't get much effect. So the one that I like to start people on will be the Optima. The 50 billion one does not need refrigeration, which is really nice, and just one a day for 1 month. And then I'll switch to the pearls, which are cheaper. Other infections, numerous ones. We'll talk about those another time. Let's talk about pain. Pain is a significant issue for people, and pain is your body's way of saying that something needs attention. So, for example, if you don't have enough energy, your muscles will get locked in a shortened position, and they're going to hurt. And then the chronic pain triggers central sensitization, brain pain, and nerve pain, basically. So pain is not an outside invader. It's part of your body's way of saying, I need something. The trick is figuring out what that is. So treat pain as if it's kind of the red flashing oil light on your body's dashboard. Now, when the oil light goes on, at least it says oil, you know what you need. But pain, the funny thing is that if you use an adaptation of shine, sleep, hormonal issues, and in addition to infections, add inflammation and impingement, and then nutrition, exercise, you'll find that treating that will address the majority of pains and help them to go away. Now, in terms of standard pain medications, excuse me, medications like ibuprofen or NSAIDs, arthritis medications, which are the most common pain medications used pretty much, contribute to over 30,000 preventable U.S. deaths each year, 16,500 from bleeding ulcers, and a 40 to 300% increased risk of heart attack and stroke. And these are unnecessary because there's many other medications and natural treatments that are more effective for pain. So, for example, a couple medications that are very good for pain would be Ultram, otherwise known as Tramadol, Scalaxin. Scalaxin is modestly effective. It helps maybe 40–50% of people, does nothing in the other half, and it's stupidly expensive. There are prescription pain creams that are compounded that are very effective for localized severe pains. Neurontin, Lyrica, Cymbalta, Flexeril, all of these can help pain. Better yet, herbal remedies have been studied and found in numerous studies to also be highly effective for pain, and instead of getting side effects, they cause side benefits. They are very complementary and synergistic, so they can be combined with the pain medications. My favorite herbal mix is one called CURAMIN, C-U-R-A-M-I-N. It is a pain relief miracle. It's a mix of a special highly absorbed curcumin a specific strain of Boswellia that's very, very effective without the parts that are unhealthy. DLPA, which increases your body's own levels of endorphin, and nattokinase, which help melt inflammation so everything else can get to the area that's needed. I'm not going to go through each of the components again, but it's really remarkable stuff. And this is the most effective natural pain relief mix that I found. I would recommend people take 1 to 2 tablets 3 times a day. It can be taken with any other pain medications. Give it 6 weeks to see the effect. Sometimes if you've had the pain for a little while, the pain may go away in a half hour. If you've had the pain for a long time, it may take the 6 weeks to see the full effect. Give it to 6 weeks. Then you can often lower the dose to 1 tablet 3 times a day, or even just as needed. Some people find they just take it at bedtime. They take 1, or they have a pain, they take it that day. Basically, CURAMIN, it's just amazing. It kicks pain, but it's just really, really good for helping to get rid of it. So you can find it at most health food stores. We have it on our website at End Fatigue. This is my favorite pain reliever that's out there, medication or natural. Another excellent pain formula would be called End Pain. This is a mix of willow bark, boswellia, and cherry. It can be taken along with the CURAMIN. The added boswellia is beneficial. Again, 1 to 2 tablets 3 times a day. Give it 6 weeks to see the full effect. Medications poison systems, so you see effects right away, but you also see side effects and toxicities. The herbals tend to rebalance systems, so you'll sometimes see effects quickly, but it can take 6 weeks to see the full effect. It's like it takes a day to tear down a house, and it can take 6 weeks to build one. Another wonderful natural pain reliever is comfrey cream. This is awesome. If you have localized areas of pain, just rub it on. Often you'll see same-day relief, often in a minute. It just really can be really quick for a lot of folks. So these 3 are an excellent combination for people. So for more in-depth information on a comprehensive medicine approach using the best of natural and prescription therapies for pain management, my book, Pain Free 123, is very helpful. We have newer information. The book was, I think, 2007, so it gives an overview basis, and then the stuff we added today will update up. For those who would like to make an appointment, we do treat people, see people from all over the world, and I do both in person but also by telephone consultations for people with chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia worldwide. For those who would be interested in making an appointment, I would contact Sarah, and the email is appointments, with an S at the end, at endfatigue.com. So appointments at endfatigue.com. Or you can call 410-573-5389. That's 410-573-5389. Leave a voicemail. Now, the staff gets very busy, so they're not likely to pick up the phone, but they will return the call and set up a time to speak with you. Do patient appointments with me and take 3 to 4 hours of my one-on-one time. I'm not doing anything else during that time. I'm taking care of you. And we thoroughly review your old medical records, the current information that's needed. You will feel like I know you better than your grandma does by the time we're done. And you will have a very detailed understanding of what's causing your illness and how to make it go away. Again, as the research shows, we see about 85% of people feeling better with treatment. There's about 15% in real life that I'm not able to help, but most people find that they're feeling a whole lot better. And I think you'll be amazed. Now, the problem is that insurance will not pay. One, they don't pay for fibromyalgia for most things. And 2, they will pay for a 5-minute visit. It's as if they said, we'll pay $70 for heart bypass surgery. You're not going to have any heart bypass surgeons that will be able to do that. And most people who are experts in CFS and fibromyalgia cannot and will not take insurance because the insurance simply will not pay for the time. It'll be out of business within a week. So unfortunately, another question came up, do we take insurance? We don't. I work for you. If the insurance, sometimes insurance will cover part of it, but I would presume that they don't cover the time needed. And like if your transmission broke or your furnace broke, or if you didn't have dental insurance and needed a crown or a bridge, it's something that just needs to be covered. The insurance doesn't pay for it. So I want to talk about the mind-body connection. All illnesses, whether it's cancer, multiple sclerosis, heart attacks, have a psychodynamic component to it. Heart attacks have been shown to be associated with increased rage, for example, or with frustration or hostility. Multiple sclerosis with repressed rage, uterine cancer with a hopeless personality. It doesn't mean that if somebody comes in with crushing chest pain and a heart attack, that you say, oh, just relax, meditate, and it's all in your mind. You put them on the intensive care unit, you treat what's going on physically, and you also address the psychodynamic. CFS and fibromyalgia is no different. The main difference being that some idiots out there, instead of using cognitive behavioral therapy as a tool to teach people to adapt to their illness and how to cope, as is done with MS and people with cancer or any other severe disease, where CBT can be very helpful, you have some crazy sons of whatever is out there who try to make believe that you have to believe that this fibromyalgia is not real and that it's all in your mind, and they call that CBT when really they're just being assholes. I'm sorry. Forgive my French here, but that's where the controversy is. Don't let that controversy among idiots who are saying, oh, you just need exercise. Yeah, people with cancer fatigue just need exercise. They don't need chemo. Right. They're idiots. They're fools. Ignore them. But that doesn't mean you don't get the help you need in terms of conditioning and coping with the illness. So, excuse my French. And you can tell I get kind of ticked off sometimes. But anyways, at this rate, at least I don't have repressed rage, no depression. So it's good. So anyway, let's take a look at the psychodynamic for CFS and fibromyalgia. It's usually seen in people who had low self-esteem as a child. They're people who are approval seekers. They try to be all things to all people, and they take care of everybody except one person, and that's themselves. If you think about it, this is a recipe for blowing a fuse. This is a recipe for an energy crisis because you can't say no. Take care of everybody but yourself. So learning to say no to things that feel bad. I don't care what your brain is telling you, you should do. But if you're not going to be arrested or homeless for not doing it, and it feels bad, there's a good argument to just say no. Because otherwise, every energy vampire in town will be hunting you down and sucking you dry. So learning to say no to things that feel bad, and notice things that feel bad, and yes to things that feel good. Important. People ask, should I get counseling? And like anybody else with a severe illness, if somebody with cancer says, should I get counseling? I say, if you feel like it, get it. It's just common sense. But people go into what they had. I had chronic fatigue syndrome. My cardiology friend had heart disease. My gastroenterology friend had gut problems. And my psychiatry friends are neurotic. Some of them do their inner work and they become brilliant. They're very good. And others are just crazy. So if you go for counseling, you want to make sure the psychoanalyst is one word and not two words. Okay? Other resources, our website, www.endfatigue.com. We have free email newsletters, so feel free to go and sign up today for them. We have the free energy analysis program that we mentioned, where you can do the quizzes. You can even add the lab tests, but they're not critical. We'll tell you how to optimize your energy. There's an app, Cures A to Z, about 2 million downloads at this point, which helps people to optimize health. You can find it for your iPhone or your Android. There's many useful articles. And again, we're going to be beginning monthly webinars. This is the first of the series, and much, much more. The monthly webinars, we're going to be doing them at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Time, the first Monday of each month. So sign on for the newsletters, stay tuned, and we will keep you informed of how to sign on and what the topics are going to be. Like I said, next month will be sleep. Then we'll talk about hormonal issues, infections, methylation, pain, and much, much more in the coming webinars. Also, we're starting a Get Well Now Club. We're going to have a second webinar where the second Monday of each month, at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. It's just going to be for Q&A. It's not going to be the lecture or discussion. It's just people can come on to a part of the Get Well Club now and get their questions answered. I'll be taking Q&A. To be part of the Get Well Now Club, we have an auto ship program where people order things and they have it shipped automatically each month or whenever it's needed. They will go ahead, they get a 20% discount off of already very, very low prices. And this will now also get you onto our free second Monday of each month webinar. The first of the month webinar is open to everybody, but that second Monday webinar each month where we do Q&A, that's just going to be people who use our auto ship program, and I'll be here to answer your questions. A couple books from Fatigue Fantastic is the best-selling book of all time on chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia. Pain Free 123, good book for pain. For those of you who are sugar addicts out there, and if you got to ask, then you are. It will help you come off sugar without the withdrawal. Nice, easy book. From Fatigue Fantastic is like a textbook. It's a very thick read. A lot of people love it because it has really detailed information and hundreds of scientific studies referenced. But other people kept asking for something simple. My newest book is called The Fatigue and Fibromyalgia Solution. And this is like reading Vogue or Red Book. It's a nice, simple, easy read, but it will tell you everything you need to know to recover from your CFS and fibromyalgia. And then those who want a natural owner's manual for your body, my book, Real Cause, Real Cure. It goes through the 9 root causes of illness and talks about how to optimize health, optimize digestion, optimize sleep, optimize all these different things so you can stay feeling great. For those, we talked about a lot of supplements today. These are pretty readily available. I invite you to come to get them at www.endfatigue.com. This is my website where we have the web shop that has the supplements. If you use the discount code WEB20, so WEB20, you'll get a 20% discount off the already very low prices. It's good till January 21st. And if you use there's also...
Excuse me, Jacob, just to break in real quick. I'm not sure if that may be case sensitive. You're showing it as capital WEB, so for everyone listening, you want to write that down as lowercase WEB20.
Thank you. Yep. That's our guardian angel in the sky over there, Rich, who helps us.
Watching quietly.
Yeah. Now, also, we do have the monthly auto ship. So for people who get their orders shipped every month for stuff they're using, they get an additional 20% off, and that would be on each month's stuff that they get. And again, you'll find we already have some of the lowest prices out there. If you use the auto ship, you're going to get the lowest prices out there for most things. And then if you use the 20% discount on top of that for the WEB20, that's just good for the one-time order. Makes this affordable for everybody. So the good news is that you can get your vitality back. You can get your health back. You can be pain-free. You can get your life back. And it's fun. And I'm going to say that what I do, people ask, well, gee, how do I do? I traveled 60,000 miles in the last 3 months, plus writing 2 books now. I treat patients and treat people. I'm lecturing all over the world. I'm doing the webinars. I do probably 5 radio shows a week. People ask, how do you do all that? And the answer is, I do it because I love it. I will not do stuff I don't love doing. So the trick here is for you to get your health back, not so you can go back to what made you sick in the first place. The trick is to get your health back and feel great using Shine so you can start to create a life that you love for yourself. That's what it's all about. So I want to thank everybody for coming. For those who need to go, I invite you to come next month. First Monday of each month, we'll be having our ongoing webinars. And then I will stay and happy to go ahead and take questions. So thank you, everybody. And Rich, did you want to read me questions, or shall I just go down the list?
Yeah, Jacob. Yeah, Jacob, the list is not super long. It's probably just as if you just scan through it and pick them out. If you'd like me to read them, I can do that.
Why don't you do that? Because it's I'm having a little trouble getting the cursor to work on it.
Okay. Let's hang on. Okay, you'd already answered a few of these, so if I repeat a question, just point that out. There's a question here, are there specific saliva or urine tests we could use to help determine nutritional needs for fibromyalgia?
Not so much for nutritional needs, not that I find, there's many of these tests, but I don't find them to be helpful. The salivary tests for adrenal function and for some of the other hormones can be helpful, but I find those are most helpful before you start the hormonal treatments. Once the person has taken the hormonal treatments, I find them to be not reliable.
Okay, Shannon asks, I have chronic pain and have tried CURAMIN. Is there anything else you can recommend for severe pain? I can barely get out of bed during the day.
Again, I have treated thousands of people with chronic pain, and I can count on my fingers the numbers we've not been able to get good, solid pain relief for. We'll have an upcoming webinar on my book, Pain Free 123. The end pain and also the comfrey cream are good natural things. The pain medications that we mentioned, Ultram, Neurontin, Lyrica, Cymbalta are a couple good ones, but there's literally over 100 other treatments that can be helpful for chronic pain. In addition, in fibromyalgia, the low-dose naltrexone, which is about 60 cents to $1 a day, 2 studies on that now. It is prescription, but it's not going to be covered by most prescription plans. After about, you have to give it 3 months, can be very helpful for bringing down pain. HCG, in 2 studies by Dr. Forrest Tennant, who's a pain specialist and editor of Practical Pain Management, found that people even needing massive doses of morphine for pain, that adding the HCG decreased their pain medication needs by over 30%. So there's so many things that can help pain.
Carly asks, I think you answered this one. I have type 1 diabetes and wonder about ribose. Will it raise my blood sugar?
It sometimes will, but most often ribose lowers blood sugar. So for diabetics who want to take it, they need to check with their doctor to get the okay. The doctor won't have any clue about it most of the time. But generally what I tell my folks is start with a low dose and keep an eye on your blood sugars and just make sure that they're okay.
And Kimberly asks, can you please address how to exercise without post-fatigue?
Yeah, basically we talked about that before, and we do that by increasing the walking program and increasing by 50 steps a day as is comfortable, so you feel good, tired after, and better the next day. If you do too much, you're going to know because you're going to feel wiped out the next day. And what you need to do is to cut back a bit. After about 10 weeks on the SHINE protocol, your energy production will usually be skyrocketing, and then you'll be able to make enough energy to start conditioning.
Okay, Mary Jo asks, I think you did elaborate on this question. Do you find chiropractic care on a regular basis helpful?
It can, but you're only going to get short-term relief because the underlying energy crisis is still there, throwing the muscles into the shortened position. Once you've finished with 3 months of the SHINE protocol and the energy production is rising, then the muscles will have the energy so that they can start staying released longer and longer after each chiropractic treatment. Same for acupuncture. When you put a needle into a trigger point in a muscle, it releases the muscle. Myofascial release, the same thing. So acupuncture I find not strong enough for most people with fibro, but it can help to a degree, but it's most likely to be helpful after 3 to 6 months of being on the SHINE protocol. That's when these other treatments become most effective.
From Danielle, you answered this one. Are you familiar with the blood test FM/A? And you had said no. So I'll go on to the next one from Suzanne. I have Epstein-Barr virus and need strategies for coping when viral load is high. I would not presume. Go ahead.
Oh,
sorry. She had a little bit more. Have retired early from a high-powered career in finance, which caused lots of stress.
I would not presume that you have Epstein-Barr virus. 95% of the adult population will have positive antibodies for Epstein-Barr because they have mono in their kids, and that test is positive means absolutely nothing. Now, there is the question sometimes that if you have very high IgG levels, for that HHV6, CMV, that may reflect viral activation or it may not. But the only way to really tell is to use, basically the SHINE protocol helps immune function in general. But then if the HHV6 or CMV antibody titers are over 4, I'm going to give Valcyte for 3 months, which will cover the Epstein-Barr as well. If those 2 are under 4, suggesting that they're not reactivated, then I may just give Valtrex 1,000 milligrams 4 times a day giving it at least 6 months. I'll give other things to optimize immunity. There's a number of things that will do that, including Shine itself does that. And most of the people who have what has been called Epstein-Barr syndrome, or even chronic Lyme, which Lyme, just like Epstein-Barr, is one of numerous infections that can blow a fuse. But then the answer is not to chase that necessarily. You do what you need to get rid of it, but you turn the circuit breaker back on with Shine. Most people who have the post-viral fatigue, including Epstein-Barr, find that they recover with the Shine protocol, or at least feel much better. I'm one of them.
Jim has an important question. I think we had an a newsletter out on this recently. He asked, will there ever be a lab test that marks CFS?
Yes. There are many of them. There are many of them currently in the works for both CFS and fibromyalgia. Now that there are 3 expensive medications that are spending $70 million a year advertising each of those medications to the health practitioners, there is a tremendous financial motivation to create a market for these medications by creating a test that will define somebody as having the illness. So, yes.
From Martha, we've got, I get sensitized and allergic to any supplement or medication I take within 3 days of beginning. How can I shine with this happening?
You want to do the NAET that we talked about, N like Nancy, AET like Tom. That's an allergy desensitization technique that will go ahead, and especially when people find they can't take anything. Well, often those things that they're trying to take include vitamins, minerals, and things that are essential for life. And it suggests that the person has a sensitivity to those as well. The NAET can eliminate one sensitivity with each visit. So give it at least 10 visits to start feeling better, but it can be dramatically effective.
WK asks, could you talk more about LDN, the dosage and taking time? I found that LDN disturbs my sleep if I take it before bedtime.
Correct. And what more experts are finding is that if it disturbs sleep, and low-dose naltrexone, you can go to a website, which is an awesome website, www.low-dose, D-O-S-E, naltrexone, N-A-L-T-R-E-X-O-N-E, .org, not .com, .org, 3 to 4.5 milligrams at bedtime. After 3 months and 2 studies, very, very helpful for fibro, cheap, and low side effects, except that it can disrupt sleep in the beginning. When it disrupts sleep in the beginning, I just tell people take it in the morning instead. And after a couple of weeks of taking it in the morning, they often find their body is adapted to it, then they can take it at nighttime.
Okay, Rebecca has a question on the product Smart CoQ10. And her question is, why is there, and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this right, why is there ubiquinol in the Smart CoQ10? Isn't ubiquinol, with an L, better?
Ubiquinol is better absorbed, but it's more expensive. So in terms, at the end of the day, what gives you the most bang for the buck? Because you could take 200 milligrams of one, and it's going to be a lot cheaper than 30 milligrams of the other. So for the same price, you're going to get better absorption, I think, of the CoQ10. Now that's changing. As the price of ubiquinol comes down, I may shift. But they both land up doing the same thing. So at the end of the day, and you can get it all in one pill, it's just a matter of cost per milligram. So I find you get more bang for the buck for now using the CoQ10. The exception will be people who have heart failure that they're really on transplant lists, and therefore they're not absorbing well because of swelling and edema in the gut, and therefore they need ubiquinol. Now that's moving more and more to changing as the price of the ubiquinol comes down. But for right now, I still find CoQ10 to be the better bang for the buck.
A question from Natalie. I recently heard a doctor say that fibromyalgia should be redefined as mitochondrial dysfunction, and that the reason for the illness is that the cells are inflamed and therefore cannot receive the glucose and oxygen into the cells adequately. Do you agree with this?
They are not inflamed. If you look at the STED rate, which is an inflammation test, that tends to be low, not high. On the other hand, the root cause is mitochondrial dysfunction or decreased energy production. And it is that decreased energy production that causes you to blow a fuse or the hypothalamic dysfunction. So one can make an argument for renaming it mitochondrial dysfunction, but I'm not looking for a new name now. We have enough problems with the old names, and just making one more name is just going to add to the confusion. I can give you 100 other good names for it. I'd rather just treat people and have them get well.
Okay, Peggy would like to know if red rice yeast causes weight gain.
No, and it's probably one of the best ways, along with berberine, of lowering an elevated cholesterol. Statin medications for cholesterol can aggravate fibromyalgia, and I strongly recommend in my patients that unless they have a history of angina or a heart attack or stroke, I will not give them statins. But I will give them red rice yeast, and I will give them berberine, and I'll treat their thyroid, and I will treat their testosterone, and in men the testosterone, not the women for cholesterol. And those things all will tend to normalize cholesterol levels.
Okay, Susanna asks about the new ribose powder that you've said is coming soon. What is the expected release date?
Oh, God. You know, God willing, and the angels of the universe moving it, I'm hoping mid-February, but I wouldn't wait on it. I would get the riboses now, but just keep an eye open for the future. When that does come out, early to end of February, I'm guessing, then it's going to be the same thing, pretty much, same ribose, but at a much lower cost.
Okay, Beth starts by first saying thank you with a lot of exclamation marks by it.
You're welcome.
And then wants to know if you have heard of, again, my pronunciation, Robuvit, R-O-B-U-V-I-T?
No.
Okay. From Gudrun, what about coffee? Would you recommend that people quit drinking coffee?
I recommend that they have 1 cup a day, and then from there they switch to tea or decaf. Coffee is actually a healthy energy drink in moderation, especially in the morning. It flips off the adenosine, which is what triggers sleep, and then allows you to wake up more effectively. It comes from natural, healthy means. It's chock full of antioxidants. It's actually a good, healthy drink. The problem is twofold. One, when you have too much fatigue and you're using it as an energy loan shark, well, it becomes an energy loan shark. And two, in those who have low blood sugar, it amplifies, from low adrenal usually, it amplifies those symptoms. So if that latter is not a problem, then I think having the 1 cup a day in the morning is fine, and then switch to tea for the 2nd cup and then go to caffeine-free.
Okay, Sharon would like to know your opinion on what the best diet is, or is that specific to each person?
The diet is what makes you feel the best, and it is very variable. That's one reason I suspect the universe has this wide variety of foods to choose from, because we all need different things, and even the same person will need different things at different times of their life. So the way that you tell is by the simple question, how is that working out for you? If you're eating something and you feel better with it, then that's your body's way of saying, I want that. If you're eating something and it makes you feel worse, then that's a craving, like sugar, and that's not likely to be healthy. Overall, in fibromyalgia, people find that a high protein, low to moderate carbs, using whole grains when they have the carbs, multiple small meals through the day, increased salt and increased water feels the best. But the closer you get to a whole food diet of unprocessed foods, where you're doing vegetables and fruits, don't do fruit juices or loaded with sugar, do the whole fruit. These are the things that leave most people feeling the best. While knocking out candida, I keep the fruits down to a lower amount as well during that 6 to 12 weeks if you can.
Okay, for everybody watching the time, by the way, it looks like we've got about 10 questions left. And the next one is from HM. The question is, does curcumin work for cramps associated with periods, or is that addressed by hormones?
Well, that's a prostaglandin issue. So for that one, the funny thing is the best thing for that is naproxen or Motrin. And that family, that's one of the cases where I do recommend those medications for the menstrual cramp issues.
Shannon has kind of a statement as sort of a question, I guess, is I've gone to doctors to find out the cause of my pain, then they won't test me for fibromyalgia because my insurance doesn't cover the medication they prescribe for it. I'm in a lot of pain. It seems they won't prescribe anything for this. I think she's asking your thoughts on that.
There is no test for fibromyalgia. If you go on our website at vitality101.com, there's actually, and maybe you can guide them better to this, Rich, there's actually a quiz you can take that'll tell you if you have fibromyalgia. So it's free. and you'll know by the end of taking that quiz if you have fibromyalgia or not. But having said that, in terms of the pain medications, the newer medications that are FDA approved for fibromyalgia, which is Lyrica, Cymbalta, Savella, are not necessarily any better than the old cheap medications. So instead of getting into arguments about fibromyalgia testing and the rest, ask them to try tramadol to begin with, Neurontin, Flexeril, the 5 milligrams 3 times a day, and then if those don't help, Scalaxin. Then if those don't help, then the insurance company will usually cover for whatever kind of pain, the Lyrica followed by Cymbalta.
Okay, Kimberly asks, if you get over-energized with D-Ribose, why is that an indication that you need adrenal support? Are you saying if you are taking hormones, thyroid hormones, an adrenal functioning test will not be accurate?
No. The reason that that happens is that ribose causes blood sugar to drop, not to rise. When you have low adrenal, you have trouble keeping blood sugar from dropping. A lot of the problems come from low blood sugar. So when you have the initial adrenaline release from the low blood sugar, which is what the over-energizing is, it's reflecting that the adrenal is underactive and can't prevent the blood sugar from dropping. So in most people, the blood sugar drops, the adrenal kicks in, rises right back up, no problem.
Okay, HM asks, if taking ribose causes stomach upset, what would you recommend?
It usually won't, but if it does, in those rare cases, I'm going to treat for Candida.
Royce asks, about approximately what percentage of people who you've treated have fully recovered?
In terms of feeling healthy, where their illness is no longer an issue, I'd probably say about 35 to 40%, about 35% feel fully recovered. I'd say that about another 15 to 20% feel much better, but not fully recovered. And then 15% are not really, they may consider themselves better, but I don't consider themselves better enough that I'm happy enough to call it an improvement. And then the rest are feeling improved, but not totally well.
Another question also from Royce, is it possible to have a bad reaction to Adrenal Stress End, the product? I took it several weeks ago and for days felt very nauseous or nervous. Nervous.
Well, the nervous is interesting because it raises cortisol levels. So although with chronic fatigue, very often it's the low adrenal that's a problem. In some people, it's the high adrenal that's a problem. And then taking the adrenal stress end may be raising it and aggravating the nervousness. So in that case, I would try the sleep to night product during the day instead, because that will balance down the cortisol if it's too high, and see if that helps. But yeah, it's very unusual to see that. Mostly what you're going to see is nausea, like you said, as I mentioned during the talk. Some people get upset stomach from adrenal glandulars, and in that case, they should not use them. But you can just use the licorice and the in moderation, and the multivitamin powder will supply the rest of the things most people need.
Okay, Rebecca asks, I have low T4 levels and high normal T3. I can't use Armour Thyroid without my T3 going too high, but feel no relief on thyroxine. What can I do?
Well, in that case, presuming that the T3 has been evaluated, that there's not a thyroid nodule or other such thing causing an inappropriate production of the T3, I would still treat based on the symptoms, based rather than on the blood test. If somebody is taking the Armour Thyroid or any T3 product, I do not check T3 levels. T3 levels are utterly, absolutely, incredibly, stupidly, remarkably, stupidly unreliable, unhelpful, incorrect, inaccurate, and useless when somebody is taking T3. I may have been too subtle there, Rich.
So you're saying I should look at my T3 levels?
I'm saying don't bother with the T3 levels, exactly. I'm saying that I will adjust the thyroid based on how the person feels, and I will check the free T4, not the TSH, but the free T4 to make sure that it's in the normal range for safety. Now, if it goes too low, that can happen from the T3 going too high. I'm not going to chase it. But if the free T4 goes too high, then I need to lower the thyroid dose. But otherwise, I adjust the thyroid type and dosing and how often during the day it's given based on how the person feels, not chasing a test that is incredibly, stupidly unreliable.
Okay, Catherine asked a question that a number of folks have been interested in. Is the webinar going to be available at the site? I know I've answered that. Yes, it's going to be recorded. Within a couple of days, it'll be at End Fatigue. Not sure exactly where, but you go to the site, it'll be easy to find. Another question related to that, Jacob, is do you plan to post also the slides from the webinar or only the recording of the webinar?
I certainly hope we can put the slides up, Rich.
Okay, yeah, we'll do that then.
I'll email you the file in case it doesn't get recorded along with the...
Yeah, no, I'll get it up in a format that people can see. Next question, we've got 3 remaining questions. Angie asks, what is the recommended dose for Lyrica?
Well, again, in the studies, it's the 450 milligram dose where you start to see the main benefits, so 450 to 600. The problem is that's also where you start to see the side effects. What we find is that when you're giving the whole SHINE protocol and perhaps other medications as well for pain, then the optimal dose is only 250 milligrams, so you get most of the benefits without most of the side effects, and then it can largely be taken at nighttime so that the sedation helps sleep. So in our experience, we're finding the 200 to 300 milligram dose is a sweet spot where if that's the only treatment being used, although some people find benefits with lower doses, studies show that 450 milligrams is where you start to see the effectiveness.
Okay, Shannon just says thank you again for doing the webinar, along with a couple of exclamation marks and even a smiley face.
You're welcome, Shannon.
and Natalie has a follow-up question to a discussion we just had. Why do some people fully recover and others do not, even if they're following the same protocols?
Because again, if you have, you're talking about blowing a fuse or tripping a circuit breaker, there are hundreds of things that can be doing that. And if you, in one person, if it's because too many space heaters are put in, and you unplug the space heaters, that will get them back on. If another one, if there's a short circuit somewhere and someplace it's not being found, it's not going to go on. So recovery depends on hitting those issues that are continuing the loss of energy production. And we're constantly finding more and more things that improve the effectiveness of treatment. Most people have effective treatment available now. Even for those that we hadn't had effective treatment, we keep finding new treatments that are effective, and that 15% is likely an overstatement these days. I think it's going down even more and more.
Okay, and WK asks, have you heard about, and I'm gonna fumble this pronunciation, the Guaifenesin protocol?
Yeah, that was made by Dr. Paul Sanamon. Paul is a wonderful worker in the field, and he's a really good doctor. The problem I have with the Guaifenesin protocol, which helps to basically restore phosphate metabolism, phosphate metabolism is the core for energy production, is that, one, you get a flaring of symptoms in the beginning many times. Two, it can take many months to start working. But most importantly is that you can't take anything natural or herbal with it pretty much, because anything that basically is you can't take anything natural with it. And what I have then is something that gives a little bit of benefit and even a lot in some, and a whole bunch of things that give a whole lot more benefit that I can't use with it. So at the end of the day, the trade-off's just not worth it, so I don't really use it. But there are people who do use it, and it's a very helpful treatment for a good number of people.
Okay, and the last couple of questions, Lucette asks about catching the program again recorded at the website later. She missed the first half. We just mentioned that, yes, you will be able to see that in a couple of days. And the last comment here, this is maybe an administrative question that we'll look at for the next go-around of webinars. Kathy points out, did I make a mistake? Did I screw up addressing my questions to Dr. Teitelbaum? I believe what Kathy's referring to is there may be a way in this text chat function where you can explicitly direct your questions to people. Jacob, I think that means that you might, looking from your end, see questions directed personally to you that I'm not seeing from my view. I don't know if that's something you can check real quick. If not, it's something we'll take care of next time.
I'll tell you what, can you send your questions again and address them to all or to Rich or however?
Well, she would have to retype. If there's a lot of questions, she may have to retype them, or maybe she wants to indicate to us, Kathy, you might want to enter, you're the last person on the line here. You might want to enter in.
Can you unmute her?
No, I can't.
Okay.
But you might want to just give us an indication by text if you have one or two questions that you do want have us wait and have you enter in right now. Maybe give her a second. If we don't see anything, we may assume she dropped off.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, something coming in. Well, I'll get to Kathy, then I'll back up to a question that was just entered by Fizza. Kathy asked FOS. I'm not sure what this means. FOS ... MOS, comma, probiotic, question mark.
Well, fructooligosaccharides would be the FOS. Either that or she's filling in that I'm full of, no, anyway. But, so those are what we call prebiotics. And I expect the MOS is a similar thing, although I'd have to check the abbreviation for that. So these are things that help the probiotics to grow. They're probiotic food. The vitamin powder already has the prebiotics in it as one of the 50 nutrients. And there's a good large amount of it in there in the form of chicory. So it does have the FOS, fructooligosaccharides. The prebiotics are already as one of the 50 nutrients in the vitamin powder.
Okay, Fizza asks a couple questions that may be related. I used fluconazole.
Fluconazole,
Fluconazole, 50 milligrams for 6 weeks, and couldn't tolerate 200 milligrams. My vaginal thrush got better for a few weeks, but now my symptoms are back again a month later. Let me also ask what she asked after this. I suffered from a miscarriage. This is continuing. I suffered from a miscarriage in April last year. I then had blood tests which revealed ESR of 89 and CRP of 24, but no autoimmune disease. I've been diagnosed with fibromyalgia and been following the SHINE protocol. What can I do to improve fertility, struggling to conceive?
There's an article, and I think it's on the Vitality 101 site, on natural treatment approaches for infertility. Then also with the stud rate being so high, there is some inflammatory component, but there's something cause that needs to be found and needs to be addressed. Low thyroid, despite normal tests, is also a very common trigger for miscarriages and infertility. You should check a TPO antibody because if the TPO antibody is elevated, which is Hashimoto's thyroiditis or even Graves' disease and other thyroid things, you'll see that the miscarriage rate goes up from the normal 3.5% to about 12.5%. And in those cases, even if the rest of the thyroid tests are normal, giving thyroid hormone has been shown to bring the miscarriage rate down to 3%, which is what everybody else's is, and also restores fertility in many cases. So I would start, do a search at vitality101.com on infertility or natural treatments for infertility. And you'll see a lot of information that can be very helpful. But then meanwhile, you've got to find a doctor who will check to see why your inflammation rate is elevated. And you may want to consider an appointment with me as well. It's, that's something that perhaps we can help with as well.
Jacob, could you repeat just one piece of your answer to Kathy, who just sent a note? Her audio is having a hard time picking you up clearly. She wasn't sure in your response to her question about FOS, MOS probiotic a moment ago. She said she didn't hear what you had said about the milligram dosage or type.
For the FOS, it's already in the energy revitalization system vitamin powder. You're going to have about 500 milligrams of chicory in there, so that's already in there. MOS, I don't know what that is. The probiotic, I would use the Nature's Way Optima, 50 billion units, one a day for 1 month, followed by the Pearls Elite. Both of these you can find at the End Fatigue site. The Pearls Elite, one a day for 5 months. After 5 months, the Pearls Elite can be taken Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 3 times a week. And that will maintain the benefits.
Okay, Sarah asks, what are your suggestions for a person that has ongoing tremors?
Well, again, you have to look for the source of the tremor at that point, but also certainly magnesium, making sure there's not a thyroid problem, making sure there's not a low adrenal issue. High thyroid, for example, can cause it. Some people have benign essential tremor, and tremor is not uncommon in fibromyalgia in general. As just part of the fibromyalgia and often tends to help just with treating the entire process.
WK asks, is glutathione infusion helpful? And if so, what dosage do you suggest?
It can. I leave that to each doctor in terms of the actual dosing they do. They'll often do it at the end of what's called Meyer's cocktails. But that one, it's really a very individualized thing. So I'm going to punt that to the holistic doctor that would be doing it.
Rebecca asks, is there an option to get from fatigue to fantastic energy revitalization system, but without the whey protein?
No, but there's another one called Alive, made by Nature's Way, which is a vitamin powder. I don't think it's as good, but it has pea protein instead of the whey protein.
Okay. From Tanya, can you take probiotics any time of the day, and
yes.
Can you do it with or without meals?
Well, if you take most probiotics with food, you're going to make stomach acid, which will kill them all. But if you have an enteric coating, as with the Optima or the pearls, it doesn't much matter, although it's probably still better to take them on an empty stomach.
Okay. Let's see, the final comment, I think maybe this is good to close on. Kathy says, my fuse blew in 1995. Consider myself 80% recovered, mostly due to what I've learned from Dr. T. Thank you.
Thank you. This is more fun. You know, people ask, because when I go on lectures and stuff, usually they're not paying me to do lectures because I don't take money from the companies. And it's often I'm in the middle of winter in like Nebraska or somewhere. And when I live in Hawaii, where it's nice and warm, and people ask, well, then why am I doing that? And I do it because it's so much fun. I know what it was like to have this illness, and I know what it's like to get well and get a life you love. And my doing all that traveling and all the rest, I do, and these webinars today, it's a blast. It's a lot of fun. So you're very, very welcome. It truly is my honor.
Okay, I don't know if there's a last bit of clarification, Kathy, with her bad audio. Still didn't hear what you said about the magnesium in relation, I think, back to her question about the FOS-MOS.
Well, the magnesium also, I like about 200 milligrams a day. That's the amount that's in the vitamin powder. So it's already in there, and that's the easy way to do it. Some people find that they will get, yes, I did have this mixed up on the monthly webinar. So it's 2 p.m. Pacific and 11, I mean, it's 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 o'clock Pacific time. So whoever noted that, thank you. Okay. If we can correct that on the slides, but I'll do that. Some people get diarrhea from magnesium, in which case there's a brand called Jigsaw Magnesium. We have it on our website at nft.com. That it's funny, it's a sustained release, and they were a small company, and their entire advertising budget in the beginning consisted of rolls of toilet paper that said magnesium right out through runs, no S bleep bleep T. That was their entire advertising. And it's true. It doesn't cause reruns. People love it.
And that's pretty much the end of the questions, Jacob.
Sounds good. I want to thank everybody for coming and invite you to join us each month, the first Monday of each month for the webinar series. We'll send out the information. And for those of you who are part of have ordered to our auto-ship program, or if you go and order to our auto-ship program, I'll leave it to Rich to figure out how to let everybody know about the Q&A sessions that we'll have once a month as well, where people can come and just ask their questions. So thank you, everybody. Aloha.